Nothing said on the Hivemind is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are solely our own opinions, not financial advice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hivemind podcast. Today we have Ceteris with us, who's head of Delphi research, Duncan, who's our ventures associate, and stepping in for Jose is Jason, who's head of markets. A pretty exciting time to be in the space, to say the least, as we kind of continuing to approach all-time highs. I think, it'd be worth chatting about kind of markets now and also, how similar this looks to the late 2020 breach of BTC all-time high with the kind of initial rejection, a little bit of a flush reaccumulation, and then a pretty strong push through.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally doing the exact same, right? I think we hit 20K and then same thing, instant sell. I don't know who these people are that are just waiting to hit all-time high and just waiting to sell
Confirm.
right away. Yeah.
Oh, you mean that? Yeah.
I don't know. I think that
I think it's algos. A lot of it is, especially with funding rates where they were. I think they also had the coincidence of equities nuking right as that happened.
Yeah.
But triple tops don't exist, so there we go. I actually think triple top is the highest hit rate TA pattern ever, like in crypto at least. I don't know, Jason, if you want.
What do you mean, sell off after the triple top?
No,
or break out
on the triple tops that don't exist. Whenever I see a triple top, I always say triple top. There's no such thing as a triple top.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Ceteris kind of said it. It looks exactly like 2020. Almost exactly. I think even funding rates were kind of absurd in 2020 at the time as well.
They were never this high though. This is the highest.
No, yeah, of course, but relatively, back then they were elevated. I think the one thing I'm just looking at, and I kind of put a tweet out on this or whatever a while ago. The one thing that I just look out to confirm if I want to be long is the Coinbase premium at this point, right? Coinbase has always been important, but it's going to be significantly more important now because it's honestly the only domestic spot exchange that does any meaningful volumes, right? It's super important for the ETF custody and ETF activity. So pretty much whenever Coinbase is trading at an aggressive premium to Binance is pretty much been my hit rate to just be long and just hold until that isn't the case anymore. I don't know if you guys are looking at the markets in a similar way, but it just seems like Coinbase and CME are only going to continue to get more important over time.
It's a good gauge of who's bidding, right? Whether it's retail or institutional. It's kind of nuts to see the combination of Coinbase premium and funding this high.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to kind of wrap my head around it. But the one thing that I always remembered from last market was funding rates were pretty elevated for weeks and weeks at a time, right?
Yeah.
I think
I saw a good tweet on it actually. They this guy broke out in his PC principle, basically broke out the days in 2021 where funding was above 5 bips, so every 8 hours 5 bips, 7.5 and 10 bips, and it was for Bitcoin it was about 25% of the time, 25% of the days it was above 10 bips every 8 hours. And so if you compare that to kind of what we've seen so far this year, it's actually been a lot more muted relative to all of 2021, even just the distribution in the first 3 months or 2 months. So it's nuts looking at that, the whole idea that funding can stay very high, and 2021 was a good example of that. I think part of it is just people over-index to the annual rate, and it's paying 100% in funding or whatever it might be. Obviously 100% on majors is insane, but even mid double digits, it's not a prolonged thing. You get your periodic flushes, and so it's kind of just comparing, the cost of leverage versus the volatility, or what the expectation of volatility is
But
in the
you
next
can lock
few
it
weeks.
in on like Deribit and some like dated futures. Like there are ways to lock in. Obviously not for the full year, but I think you can get like pretty good liquidity on like 3 months out to lock in that rate. I also think like a big difference with the funding like situation this year versus 2021 is like I don't think there's really infrastructure set up in 2021 to do the basis trade well. And so like funding for like that entire run, like that entire first part of the run was like 50 to 60%, just like consistently, like for months, because like there was an infrastructure to like set up and do the basis trade. But I think a lot of that has like come to the market now. And so seeing funding at like 100, like I know this is again the annualized thing, but like, yesterday or 2 days ago, it was like 100% and it had been there for like 3 or 4 days on BTC and like got up to some silly numbers on some of the meme coins, like 200, 300%. So I think that was just like, we'd never seen, it was literally like BlackRock or the ETF just walked up the price like 5% every day for the past like 2 weeks. And just, it was free money to long.
Yeah, this has been like a pretty wild period. Like every day 9:30 starts and you just get the TWAP. And it's like, and then it's on the other side, it's all these meme coins, right? And even
before
after
going
that,
to
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, even after that big flush, when we went from 69 to 60, like the memes were bought back first,
Yeah.
I think what's happening.
So I was going to say, like, what's been nuts to see is I think the volatility has definitely been muted on a lot of the majors, and especially kind of like Bitcoin. I wonder how much of that is a function of not having, these massive discretionary crypto native funds just throwing disgusting amounts of money around. Like your 3ACs and your Alamedas that were just putting on trades, trying to push pain when it was there in certain directions to exacerbate moves. It's noticeable that that's not really there. It's been a pretty steady, just with your expected volatility, but steady grind up from the lows.
Yeah, because I think what's kind of happened, and and I know you and I were talking about this the other day, but basically you have more like of these institutional players, just like a steady drip of capital into like BTC and maybe ETH to some extent, or the correlation there. But then you have all the people who have like survived from last cycle, just like their muscle memory just instantly goes into like dog coins and like the stuff that ripped the most last cycle. So it's kind of weird. Like you skip a whole stage where it's like BTC's going up and then people go to the like immediately the highest like beta, highest torque thing that they remember from last cycle, which was like these memes and dog coins.
We had the L1 and infra season in between though, like TSA. A lot of these really ran, so kind of in that bucket, but not.
But that was more the low float high FDB game. I feel like less. That wasn't like, I feel like Avalanche, Luna, Solana were more like when they were happening last market. Like those were like bigger, like a lot more float, a lot more money going into those. Whereas kind of like the TIA, Stay, Sui, like those sort of ones were more kind of the low float game.
Yeah, that felt more like internal money moving around rather than a lot of new money coming into the space.
And like all the launches, like so I just think it's kind of interesting that we kind of skipped a whole step in the cycle where it's like from Bitcoin straight into dog money, because that's what people remember doing the best last time. But I honestly think like a lot of this is like crypto native people like Jason and Ceteris, and like I don't know if Ceteris messes with the memes, but Jason just like having the muscle memory of last cycle, just like seeing Bitcoin go up and like what is retail gonna buy, and just like buying like the dog with hat, like Bonk, Pepe, Doge, Shib. Like I don't think it's really retail money moving those yet. It's like a lot of just like internal crypto money moving those.
Yeah, and this was kind of like, I had a tweet about this the other day that you were shitting on me for a while. And this is kind of my point about how this cycle is looking different, is you do have this is really new money for a lot of these new like BTC buyers. And this like wealth effect goes directly to crypto natives. And to your point, it's like they're going right for the dog money and everything. And
Brutal.
I think it's a bit different from like cycles in the past where even like the Bitcoin and ETH rallies were done by, sure, they're like institutions with big money, but these are like crypto native institutions. These aren't like TradFi institutions. And so this is also how a lot of like normies now are getting access into the industry, is from like the ETFs in their account and not necessarily downloading Coinbase. Although Coinbase has been like skyrocketing up a lot over the last couple of weeks, like more so than I would have expected by now. Yeah, the dynamics are a bit different. Like they're not the same as prior cycles.
I also think on the Coinbase side, how much of that, so you know, we mentioned it's rocketing up. That's measuring downloads, right? And so I think it loses its or like that understates the involvement of retail, because you have all the retail that already downloaded it from the last cycle just using it, right? So that doesn't get reflected in the downloads. This is purely a reflection of like new retail downloading. So I think, you know, we probably underestimate. Yeah, I doubt it. And so it's just like I think it probably understates the level of retail involvement, because you have all the ones that already owned it before getting easily involved, and that doesn't get reflected, and it's skyrocketing up the rankings.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see when like Robinhood and Coinbase like publish the numbers. Like I think Robinhood listing whiff was just like, oh god, like they're seeing some appetite, or else they wouldn't do that.
I mean, it was Robinhood EU, just to be clear.
Oh, it wasn't US?
No, not even the big one yet.
Jason,
just wait for that.
Licking his lips for these catalysts. Another thing that I think is different is I think retail just has less money. Like COVID, it was like you're locked inside in a lot of parts of the world. You're getting a stimulus check. Like that was kind of the perfect storm for gambling on internet coins. I don't know if retail has as much disposable income right now, even though we're seeing, you know, like the stock market and stuff do really well, and different assets do really well. I think that's more of a distribution to people with who like already have money. And one thing that we were talking a lot during the bear market is kind of like, you know, more macro bull cases, and it's this idea of the US is like 30 trillion in outstanding debt, and like a 5% interest rate on that is, you know, 1.5 trillion a year that's being paid in interest to kind of debt holders, which is, you know, 7% of GDP. That's like a massive, you know, stimulus, but all of that money is going to kind of people who hold bonds, like wealthier people. Whereas the stimulus before in 2021 was like, okay, like we're literally giving people $1,000, $2,000, versus like, you know, 1.5 trillion to like already wealthy people. So that's why, you know, I think that there's a bit in these more scarce assets, and also like BTC, and less so. I don't know if retail will be as, you know, important this cycle. And I really hope that all the, I don't hope, but it would be amusing if all of the people jumping right into the dog money coins are all crypto natives, and then kind of look at each other and retail doesn't come. We're dumping on each other now.
Always has been, isn't it?
I mean, no, the cycle is way different, because if the last one, everybody in the world, like no matter what asset you were going into, you're kind of, everyone was like, the good times were rolling for everyone. And it's definitely not that exact same vibe right now.
Yeah.
Like,
and you saw it with like GME and these other meme coin stocks. Like if we were to start seeing that happen, you know, other pockets of like speculation, I think that would be a really good sign for like, okay, retail still has money, but, you know, I think a lot of savings rates and like the amount of disposable income that retail has is, you know, not where it was in 2021. That's a guess, but
I don't even think you necessarily need that much retail to come in for these memes to keep going, though, because it's basically, I mean, well, just think like, you know, everyone's kind of taking a barbell approach to a lot of this, right? You're either like, it's kind of been proven, you know, the best ETH beta has been ETH and NFTs, and that's the same for kind of BTC, and probably the case for a lot of these. And then after that, you know, a lot of the stuff in the middle is tricky, because it's infra that's built for stuff that's not really there yet. So how high of a ceiling can that have? It's apps that don't have an insane amount of users, but, you know, are building for the future. And so how fundamentally valuable can they be right now? And then you have these things that are incredibly simple. Everyone who participates, no one, it's very digestible, very palatable. No one thinks they have an edge. It's just a simple idea, and so a lot of money flocks towards that. There's no unlocks. I think you're just going to kind of have this barbell situation, because the alternative is you're piling into stuff in the middle, which there are definitely interesting investments in the middle, but there's a lot of kind of noise that's hard to get excited about.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting scenario, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If like all the internal people think like this is what like ETH and Sol Beta is, because this is what it was last cycle, they bid it, and that creates kind of a reflexive dynamic as people buy more, and it gets exchange listing, like we saw with WIF and Bonk. But I also think, I know, and again, we were talking about this, like the meme dilution. Like you have Doge, Shib, Bonk, WIF, and Pepe, I think are all over $1 billion market cap. Whereas like in 2021, it was really Doge and then Shib. But now you have kind of the 5 of them. So yeah, I don't know how that plays out. I think unit bias, like definitely. Is Shib like the biggest unit bias, or is WIF up there, or Bonk, or who has?
I don't know which one has the most leading zeros at this. It's Shib or Bonk.
Because
But
I did watch like a TikTok video the other day, and they're like, "I have 5 million Shib," and I'm like, "Oh, God, that's like $30 or something." I'm like, but it makes you feel good to own a few.
All right, to be honest, Duncan,
Because
like everything
the idea is like Shib's everything is gonna go to $1, right? Like you can just anchor this random coin to go into $1, and you just have insane P&L expectations.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, Duncan, like everything you said makes a lot of sense to me. Like I don't really have anything to like come back at the, like, I do think retail is poorer than they were in 2020, right? Like I do think they have more things to spend their money on now than they did in 2020. Like I think all of those things are true. And then like all of a sudden, right? Like this is a text message I got yesterday from a friend, a 30-year-old friend who has never invested in anything. He doesn't own any stocks. He doesn't own anything. Out of the blue, for meme coins like Doge and Shiba, are you supposed to hold those for a short or long amount of time?
Jason, these
And
people
how much
are all out of money. They don't have money. The guy who doesn't invest in anything ever has like $50.
That's exactly what I'm
move the
talking about,
needle.
though. But like, he's got a couple $1,000s that he's looking to invest.
Yeah, but I like, when are these people gonna run out of money? Like
Never.
That's the thing. It's like they all got max extracted from in 2021, and then like they're out of. I feel like a lot of their savings are down, and then all these people bidding up the low float high FTV stuff are also going to get wrecked. It's like at some point this market, I feel like, will extract all the money because there's so many predatory strategies.
Well, that's why the only thing that matters really is just as long as those ETF flows keep coming, that wealth effect will keep trickling down, and like as long as that big number goes up, the others will too.
I know. I want to believe that, but also I'm fighting the high FTV coins. I've enjoyed.
Just look at regular ETFs, dude. Just go look at like the QQQ ETF.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm bearish on.
Why would it be any different though?
I'm just saying when. Yeah, well, look at gold stocks versus the gold ETF. Like gold stocks have since 2013 are down only. Like look at
business though.
But do you think, like, are you saying the low FTV stuff? Because I agree the low FTV stuff will have a reckoning, but I think it'll just create a repricing among that segment, not necessarily make the entire house come crashing down.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just I'm kind of wondering when like the liquidity draw that these low float high FTV coins have, and then also the kind of meme coins, like who continues to buy these things and who continues to support the valuations. Because like I've said before, with the low float high FTV, it's like there's literally weekly, Wormhole just launched $20 billion out of thin air. It's like there's weekly new coins with a 10 billion plus FTV, right? And like a company on the stock market that's worth $10 billion, like, like has thousands of employees, like hundreds of millions in revenue, like all this sort of stuff. So when you can continually just like every week, obviously Wormhole's been around for a while. It's like backed by some really smart engineers. But my point is every week there is a new multi-billion-dollar launch. And now there's 5 meme coins opposed to like 1 or 2 last cycle that also have multi-billion-dollar valuations. The market is going to keep supplying more of this stuff. And eventually like the edge goes away. Because if it's so profitable to get a meme coin to like, reach escape velocity in billions of dollars, like the market will keep making more of them until more stick, right?
So yeah, I get a couple thoughts on that. So on the meme coin side, I mean, the hit rate on those is very low.
I know, but it doesn't matter. Like on Solana, it costs nothing to launch a coin.
I know, but like none of those are reaching any kind of real market size, right? It's been kind of a handful of winners.
Yeah.
And then on the I feel like the spin up a protocol and launch a high FDV, low market cap combination is being kind of oversimplified. These are protocols that have been building for a while. So it's more so like things that have been building that are deciding to launch a token rather than someone saying a month ago saying, hey, I can do this.
But even new stuff, like when the reward is hundreds of millions, if not billions of paper wealth, it's like people will keep on doing it, even if it's I'm not saying it's like, yeah, I could go and spin up a wormhole tomorrow and launch it at $10 billion FDV. But like when the payout is hundreds of millions to billions, it's like, that's probably the highest EV thing you could do in the world right now if you are like technically skilled and have like fundraising connections, is launching one of these infra plays and launching it at a multi-billion-dollar FPV and extracting the value.
Like but it's not as if these are just spinning up out of the blue every week, right? I think.
Yeah, I know that like a lot of them that have
well, just about all of them. Like
there
haven't really been any that haven't been building for some period of time.
Like this has been going on since 2017 with EO.
But the problem is that projects don't release tokens in bear markets, and so now they're just all releasing their tokens at this.
Yeah, because why would you? Because they're trying to extract value. No shit, they don't launch it in the bear market.
Yeah, but it's like But to Jan's point, it's not like they're just creating this. I know now it's just the timing makes sense for everyone to do it. So
I know for sure. It's not like I'm saying like they're creating it last week and launching it now, but like this has been a profitable trade to do since EOS first did it in 2017, right? So we're now getting to 7 years into this trade that like at a certain point it's going to become oversaturated because you can't keep doing it.
Like you mentioned though, it is paper, so it's TBD if it's actually realizably profitable. Right. It's still,
definitely
some people are doing like there's definitely OTC stuff happening in the background, right? But not to an insane degree.
Jan, if they launch it like Starkware launched it like $7, and I know the Starkware guys have been building for like 6 years, but still it's actually insane.
And those guys aren't going to be farming, right? It's just like it doesn't make sense for them to try and farm this.
I'm not like, I don't know. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but it's definitely, I think the vesting schedules and, the value extraction is continually becoming more predatory given like all these tokens coming to market. And there's probably only a certain, like a finite amount of capital that's going to end up bidding these things.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely a reckoning for that sector, and that's the other reason why you like the barbell element makes more sense. You don't have this future supply overhang.
Yeah, I know, but that's just a general draw of liquidity out of the market, right? It's like stablecoin market cap is 180 billion or something like that if you add up UST.
Right, but like these market caps are priced on the margin, right? So like if there is no bid and this thing collapses, it can collapse 80% without actually sucking up that much liquidity if no one bids.
100%, but I don't think it's like everything's priced on the margin. I think it's drawing out some liquidity. Like, look at all the people fucking bidding TIA, literally all over my timeline. And it's been a profitable trade for a lot of people, but a lot of people are going to get wrecked. Like, there's VC funds that bought in at 1 cent that are holding $1 billion unrealized P&L. Like, just return their fund 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 times. Like, you don't think those people are selling? Like, I'm not like, I just think that there's eventually going to be a reckoning with this stuff. And I hope it's a scenario where just garbage just goes down, BTC and ETH continue to go up, and then also like, projects that are actually building a lot and legitimate and don't have these predatory dynamics continue to go up. But I definitely think, something's got to give at some point. Even Arbitrum, which is like done, it's like, probably the number one L2, has really great tech, done so much for crypto. They have, a $2+ billion unlock coming in 2 weeks. It's like, is there a bid for $2.5 billion worth of Arbitrum?
No, but like, I think we're that your tone sounds like we're disagreeing, but we're on the same page here. So
yeah, I just get kind of frustrated when I think about this. Like, it's
yeah, I mean,
listen, there's a good tweet thread the other day to kind of maybe change this topic, but stay on it a bit, about like public versus private valuations, and this like barbell approach of the most liquid, good public assets, and then on the private side, I forget what the private target was, but basically talked about this whole dynamic, how the private market now has been being bid up like crazy with the public going kind of insane. And a lot of these like get your token out as quick as possible deals that are being repriced the most. And I actually think that like, people like to, like, personally, I think that the liquid legit stuff is like the best area of the market now.
I agree.
And I think that a lot of people doing private deals now are not going to be happy in like, a couple of years. And obviously some of the liquid stuff that we talked about, the high FTVs, like they don't go into that category of like legit stuff that's purely liquid, but there's like good assets that are pretty much fully unlocked now, right? And like this is the case for like stuff like BTC and ETH and you have the ETH, like, especially if ETH gets this ETF, which I thought was like a lock. The ETF guys are kind of saying it's not a lock now, which I found kind of interesting. I know there's a lot of ETH maxis getting offended by them calling it Sister Hazel.
I don't understand that reference, but
neither do I. But I think ETH has a lot of good narratives too, right? If it gets these ETF flows, it's obviously pretty massive there. And then it's like, if you are a big fund manager and you think that ETH can like 2-3x from here still, how far down on the risk curve are you going like outside of that?
But it's like, who the hell? Okay, I need to stop talking about this because it gets me too annoyed. But like, who is bidding some of these like low float, high FTV things? Like, I just think that.
Well, the reason is because like a lot of the unlock stuff, it just takes a lot more money to move it, right? So if you're talking about low float, high FTV, but high FTV doesn't unlock for another 7-8 months, then you have a trade there that's not really exposed to it, right? And so like, this thing that's massively unlocked just takes a lot more money to move it. So you'll have these low market cap, high FTV coins that got initially faded because of that dynamic, but actually don't take as much capital to move, and so they end up ripping the hardest.
Yeah, and obviously the incentives are there if it doesn't take that much capital from the move for interested parties to bid it to insane valuations to give them more liquidity on their exit.
I mean, listen, man, let's just go back to like the Sol FTX estate in September and dumped to like $17 because everyone was worried about this 5 billion like Sol.
Yeah, but that's so different.
That's like 100 billion now. And
yeah,
it's.
I think it's quite a bit different, right? Like,
might be worth talking about, Sol and kind of, because we were chatting, Duncan, like we're close to all-time highs in terms of market cap, with the kind of increase in supply. But now you have, I'm bullish on it, but you have the unlocks coming from the estate every month now, starting end of March, and then just kind of normal issuance. I think it can get absorbed in a bull market for sure. And I don't think that many people who were buying the FTX estate were hedging. I mean, I'm sure some were, but it unlocks pretty quickly. So the need to hedge isn't really there yet. I'm sure there will be more of it later on. But right now it seems like an easier, just naked long. I think you more so have the element of people selling with longer time horizon selling spot and reallocating into that and just like getting basically kind of built-in leverage that way.
Ceteris, question on the SOL supply side, just 'cause I don't fully understand it, and for everyone. So the inflation rate's 7% a year, or what?
No, it's like 5 something now, I think. It goes down 15% a year.
Okay,
I
so
forget, I don't know what the exact number is right now.
got it. And do you know how much is in like left to be sold from like or unlocked from like Solana Foundation, Galaxy, all this stuff? Like how much more?
Well, Foundation has a bunch that they just like delegate to like validators, and they give out some grants, but a lot of that Foundation money is never going to be realized because it's like it's just so much, right?
Yeah.
It's like a paper treasury.
Is that technically unlocked like in the circulating cap, or is that
I don't think it's all unlocked, but it's like staked.
stake the lock tokens?
And then the estate stuff, there's like that big unlock in March of next year. But then other than that, it's like linear. It adds like 1 or 2% to inflation a year. It has that one big unlock. But
yeah, I think I generally agree with Jan, and not to sound like overly bearish when I'm talking. It's like I don't think these things matter too much when Bitcoin's going up 5% a day because of the ETF flows. It's like that's an overwhelmingly positive force, but it's like it's really important to hold these things in the back of your head and not get too crazy, because there's going to become a day of reckoning where there's so much paper gains that are going to be heading for the door. I think, you know, a lot of these coins are going to be down like 95+% at some point over the next 2 years, but they still could, you know, double, triple from here. Who knows?
Well, and that's the thing is like, you know, it would almost be less painful if they unlock now, but you know, everything is going to be higher, or you don't know, but like, you know, assuming ETF flows continue, everything will probably be higher. So now the pain will be larger when you have that much more to sell at higher values.
Yeah, that is probably a good trade. It's like find coins that literally all unlock at the bottom and people are just out. Yeah, I don't know if there's any like kind of like infra plays like that can capture a really big narrative and demand a really big kind of like imagination trade. But I guess
actually it hasn't really played out well though for those tokens, right? Because you have so much more market cap to move that it's almost the low float high FTVs moved higher because there's just less market cap to move around.
For sure, yeah. But just like eventually those are inevitably going to underperform unless they somehow do something, you know, incredible.
So back to the ETH ETF, if there's no if it gets rejected in May, does that start the entire clock completely all over again, or does anyone know?
What do you mean the entire clock? Like,
so because you know they basically delay until the final deadline, and then it's like you know they have to make a decision, and then after that they have to refile, which allows the SEC to basically continue to delay until the final deadline, which is kind of what's been their MO for a lot of this stuff.
Gotcha. I think based on what I was reading last week, they don't have to refile. I think they can. I think they're just like delay, and then they could delay again until whenever the final deadline. But I'm not positive. I can double check in the group chats I was reading before. I just don't think it's going to be May. I mean, like end of the year, maybe first part of next year makes the most sense.
Oh, you don't think that there's going to be May ETF? Interesting.
No. I just think it's like a political thing. Like I think that like there's still like all of that going on. It's like an election year. They're like, I'm not ruling out any kind of, you know, like for lack of a better word, fuckery in the ETF approval process this year. And maybe they're going to make a big deal of like staking or saying it's like not the same as Bitcoin's ETF because proof of work. Their arguments don't have to be rational, obviously, right? Like they can just make some shit up and then it's like on somebody to either sue them or appeal or whatever. So
but BTC barely made it. BTC barely made it, right? It has like it needed Gensler as the tie-breaking vote. Yeah. So it's just hard to believe he's gonna get behind this. Yeah, I think you probably need a Trump presidency. Well, Gensler's probably out either way, but you probably need a Trump presidency where you get a bigger overhaul of some of the three-letter agencies, and that'll open the door, I think, for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like 70% not happening this year is like my base case for thinking about it.
It would be the
What do
pretty
you think?
ideal catalyst for sell in May and go away.
ETF denied. XRP isn't a security.
But
though.
generally, I think denying it is probably like better for the longevity of the market. Like you have the consistent like catalyst and hope that this is coming. It's like if you
It's a
want the
lot of
bull market to
catalyst.
last longer, like having it happen in January of next year is better than May of this year.
For sure.
We just get a January ETF every year.
Jason,
Do the Sol one in 26.
What are the dog coin catalysts other than exchange listings?
What do you mean? Yeah, that's
Just L1's going up, but it's just like the L1 goes up, wealth effect, it goes somewhere else.
I know. I'm just curious if there's like specific, because that's the other thing that's like the meme coins are hard. It's like there's no.
it's
like,
exactly why they're easy. It's like for me, it's like they're the highest possible like leverage bet you can get on an ecosystem without actually having to take leverage.
I hope
That
that's
and
something
NFTs.
true.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's the most liquid leverage bet. I love the liquidity of them.
Yeah, I also think that whole sector can blow up and it won't have any effect on anything else.
I also think other sectors can blow up and those will just kind of, like if it's in the middle of a bull market, like I don't think the same cohort of people are massively bidding WIF and are the same people massively buying like TIA for staking purpose. Like I don't think it's the same.
I think they're the exact same people.
I think it's a lot of just crypto
Yeah.
whales trading.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
Yeah, I think it's not the staking part, just punting perps.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I feel like it's not the same cohort of buyers for the most part. But maybe I'm wrong.
I say this as a buyer of both.
Oh, you're a buyer of everything, dude.
It's bull
You'll buy
market.
anything.
Absolutely.
I'm just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
What do you guys think the ETH ETF is coming this year? Are you more bullish on
Well,
that?
I thought it was like a lock a week or two ago until I started hearing what these ETF guys were saying. Like they obviously know more than me. I'm not gonna put my own bias on that. And like,
I think Mr. Fink can get it through.
Yeah.
Like I'm not discounting that.
Cool, because that's the thing. Everyone's quoting his record, but they can also just withdraw, and then that doesn't hurt their record. So there could just be like a political thing where it's like, hey, just do this next year,
But it's like,
and then they all
look
withdraw.
how big a deal the Bitcoin ETFs have been. Like I
know,
think
yeah.
that they're probably going to want to push it through, just given
Salivating.
the success of BTC ETFs. And
So the counter to that is like what you're hearing is there isn't going to be as much institutional demand for an ETH ETF as there would be for a Bitcoin one, and I can definitely get around that point. I mean, we've mentioned this before, but like ETH market cap now is basically where BTC was pre-ETF, so that point works against that argument. But at the same time, I think Bitcoin is just a lot more straightforward of an investment and the thesis behind it.
But I also think that ETH is much more similar to like stuff they're used to investing in, right? It's like Bitcoin is like, oh, like you have to kind of convince them on the gold narrative, which is like a complex like monetary history.
But if you use the framework that they use for what they're investing in on ETH, it's massively overvalued, right? Like if you try and do it on a fundamental basis, it's valued on being money, and which then starts to trend towards like why BTC is valuable.
But like I think during the bull, like the burn gets up to pretty wild numbers, and like the staking rate and like
low single digits at best.
Yeah. It's
low
if you're valuing on the burn,
like
it's like
2-3%.
Yeah, that's like a 50 or 30 times earnings, like, and then you forward earnings, and then you add on the staking rate, and like I think there's.
But like that's extrapolating insane on-chain activity.
Yeah, but
for
they
a
don't
longer period
know.
of time.
They don't know. They have no idea. I think it feels like much more like, oh, this is like. I think that people.
I don't know though, man, because people don't really believe that anything useful happens on chain. And so at least for BTC, they can get behind the gold is like relatively simple. And it also is better than gold in a lot of ways. Whereas with ETH, it's like, well, this is just like a casino. So yeah, it's making some money now, but it's just a casino that like comes and goes in waves.
They put some treasuries on chain. They, put some real world assets on chain. All of a sudden, it's the future of finance. Like I think the narrative like follows the price, and I think that the ETH narrative is honestly better than the BTC one, even though like right now it's not.
I think with some solid regulatory clarity where people are comfortable building, and then the ideas and what this could be becomes a lot more tangible. I could see that for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with ETFs in general, like, I mean, just like fast forward a couple years as we get, ETH ETF, Sol ETF, right? The industry gets more and more integrated with TradFi. You think there's a meme ETF? Because there's like meme traditional stocks. No, like listen, there's like actual ETFs that trade on the stock market that are meme stock ETFs.
Listen, man, there's a legitimate, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I was thinking about this the other day.
Oh no.
There is a legitimate chance that people will be storing $1 trillion in like dog themed money.
No, there won't.
I think so.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I see at 200, absolutely.
Like, I think it's gonna eventually hit a point where there's like $1 trillion.
Yeah, okay, a
It's
trillion
gonna be
heavily inflated dollars. I guess dog money is better than the U.S.
Sure, market cap.
But it's like, let's get what's the ratio of like Doge BTC? Let's do that. Let's do a bet on that. I'll do a bet on that.
Well, this goes back to the idea of additional memes diluting the upside of each of them and like individually, and so probably need to do like an aggregate
$1 trillion
meme to BTC,
please.
I mean, what's total dog money now? Like 50 billion?
Total dog, but yeah, it's like 50 billion. No, it's like 100. It's almost at 100 now.
That's only 10x.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Wait, it's already at
Doge
I thought it was
right
closer to 100, but maybe
Doge is like
maybe
20
I'm wrong.
billion.
No, Doge is 20. It's got to be 50.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it's 50. It's probably under 50.
Okay, so only a 20x. It's
Well, no, Shiba and Doge together are 42.
yeah, Whip and
so-
Bonk are another like 4.
Okay, so it's like
And then
Yeah,
everything
50.
else.
10x
Yeah.
over the next 5-10 years, and that's
I-
a possibility. Like,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Inflation adjusted, no.
Wait, say that again.
No inflation adjusted dollars, no.
I mean,
Who
it's like
gives a
2
shit
years.
about that?
Inflation doesn't matter. Like it's
He said in the next 10 years.
5 years.
I'm just saying at some
Inflation
point.
pickle.
I'm not calling it for,
Inflation
I mean,
fucking matters. In COVID, the M2 money supply expanded by like 25% in like 3 years. It's like 25% of the dollars ever in existence just popped out of nowhere in 3 years. That's why everything moved. So it's like, yeah, if that continues to happen, then maybe freaking dog money.
you're not quoting anything on inflation adjusted value. Like I feel like we're bringing this up now for.
I know. Well, I'm hedging myself in case we go like Zimbabwe, and yeah, then like sure, my NFTs are gonna be worth $1 trillion.
I could see it happening end of this cycle.
Oh my god!
Which
I would be such a top signal. I would be completely out of the market and coping extremely hard.
I mean, there's just regular ETFs out in the traditional finance world that hold shit like Roku, GameStop, Marathon, Coinbase, Riot, dude. Come on.
Yeah, our society is collapsing.
They're gonna basket these
that
memes
tells me.
as soon as they have access to them.
That's actually sad.
They're gonna basket these memes as soon as they have.
I
access
honestly
to them.
think this speculation stuff is a sign of just stuff going to shit. Depressing to think about, but
the GCR thing, right? It's essentially the GCR hyper
Yeah,
gamble your
just
way
like,
out
oh
of the matrix.
God.
I mean, we haven't even talked about the fact that boomers are all going to be dying soon, and all that money is getting passed down
Into dog money, Duncan.
Ugh,
Infinite bid.
depressing.
yeah, it's such a slow transition though. I feel like we've been talking about boomers dying for 10 years now, and like
yeah, we need to stop all
Tom
medical
Lee keeps
advancements
posting
for
at
at least
yeah,
10
exactly,
years.
Stop
for my
all
bags.
that. Oh god, that's brutal.
Jason, will you invite me on your dog money yacht if I faded and end up broke?
I mean, seeing as how you pick your memes, yeah, I'll invite you.
Oh God! All right.
You're always welcome on the dog money boat.
Yeah. Well, this is a good combo. I feel like, but kind of crazy, man. Makes you think about where we are.
I mean, think about our first few episodes of this podcast. We were talking about like LVR, future of AMMs. We're talking about intents, and it's hard to. This just like meme stuff is just everywhere right now. It's just kind of like taken over everything. It's kind of hard to, as someone who writes info research, it's like, what is my value at this point?
Yeah, but this is how it
We
always
haven't even cut interest rates yet.
Yeah, the cut interest rates one is interesting because, like, you know, it's this whole thing that I was talking about, like the interest payments on the debt. I just like I feel like interest rates going up hurts certain sectors and then helps others, right? It's
Every
like
50 basis points of interest rate cuts are going to be 20% additions to funding rates.
God.
You
Anyways.
think things elevated now, Duncan? Just wait.
Yeah, like my
Just
head's gonna
wait.
explode. But at the same time, like I have to stay rational and like, okay, this market is still really small. Like Nvidia, which could be AGI, is still like, you know, most of this market, like just their market cap, right?
Yeah.
So at the same time, you have to balance that. It's like things.
Yeah, but
crazy.
I agree, but like, you know, people comping that to, you know, bubbles in like in 2000, there was no revenue. Like this thing is just an insane cash machine that keeps surprising.
Oh
to the
no, I'm
upside.
not saying
It's
that
nuts.
Nvidia is a bubble. I'm just saying like just as in terms of relative scale of like how big crypto is. It's like it's the same size as one stock. So it's like stuff could get way more crazy, especially if crypto becomes, you know, more relevant and we actually find some use cases other than dog money. Then it could definitely get really crazy. But it is kind of yeah, it's weird for sure.
I mean, I can tell this is tough, right? Because like knowing you for the last couple of years that I've known you, you always look at things like GMX, right? Things that like generate economic value to an extent. And then like, I don't know, like I think it's like when the markets essentially like when the markets are going up, like they don't care about that stuff. And when markets are going down, unfortunately, that's all people care about. So it's just like,
yeah, no,
you just have to kind of rotate into what other people care about. Like that was like always the hardest part about like for me learning markets. Like it's not what I care about, it's what everybody else cares about. And it's why I missed memes and NFTs last cycle, because like I was like, yo, these JPEGs are stupid as hell. Like why would anybody spend $1 million on this shit? And then I realized I'm not actually indicative of the vast majority of buyers out there. Like my preferences aren't. So like market conditions dictate preferences, right? So like that's generally like how I like try to allocate and try to keep like anything like other like. And at the end of the day, it's just like flows that dictate what goes up in bull markets, right? Like it's nothing is really based in fundamentals. It's just like as long as money's coming in, things are going up. And like to your point with Nvidia, right? Like it trades like a shit coin. It trade like percent daily basis moves. It trades like a stock that has 100x less market cap. You know, like it's, I think looking at like market caps and being like, oh, things can't go up a lot is not really the proper framework.
No,
you know,
also
it just if somebody market buys, right, like that pushes stock up. That's just it's simply it.
And like your 0-day expiry options.
And when they're inevitably going to be printing trillions of more dollars and like, all this stuff can go up. So you just have to kind of be on the fastest horse to like outpace that.
But I think your actual framework of like thinking about like the market is probably like the right way of like realizing
once we go into a Bitcoin standard and reset the currency system, wipe out all the debt, my framework's gonna pay off in about 20 years.
I think the way you think about it is like very right. It's just like it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't matter until it matters. And like I don't know when that's gonna start.
And you have to play the game. Like I still play the game when
you're a very good shitcoiner.
When this is happening. It's just like I also don't delude myself into thinking that this makes any sense in the long term. Assuming like the currency wasn't just going to zero over time. That's the only reason this makes like, you know, these trades are profitable. Anyways, I think this is a good spot to end it probably. I think we lost Ceteris.
Yeah.
I see Ceteris.
Oh. Yeah, he popped in and out.
I've been going in and out, so my connection, we should
hear him if he's talking.
Alrighty. Well, thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks,
guys. Fun episode.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.
See ya.